Warning: Geeking Toyetic is a show aimed at the adult collector, and as such features adult language and humor that is not appropriate for younger audiences. Viewer discretion advised.
Welcome everybody to the Geeking Poetic channel here on YouTube. I'm your host Larry Roberts, and this is a new episode of Geeking Toyetic. Yes, it has been a minute since we've done a Toyetic episode, and on Geeking Toyetic show we focus on toys. Yes, as you can see around me, I am a toy collector. I've been for most of my life, and I love all kinds of toys, retro toys, vintage, new, collectible, cheap rack toys. I love all of that stuff. And what I have here today is an unboxing. And what this is this is a package from NECA. Yeah, many of you know NECA as being a company that makes really cool, really high quality vintage style toys or retro characters, a lot of horror stuff, a lot of sci-fi stuff. What we have here is the latest wave that I've gotten of the NECA Ben Cooper Kids Costume Collection. Now, the Ben Cooper Costume Collection are figures that look like children dressed up in vintage style Ben Cooper costumes. For those of you who don't know, although I'm sure most of you probably do at this point, Ben Cooper was a company that made those kids costumes starting, I think, way back in like the 50s and 60s, where you had a thin paper style mask with the rubber band that went around the head and the plastic smock style costume that often didn't look anything like the character's costume. It would have a picture of the character on the chest or something along those lines. But many of us, especially those of us that grew up from, the 60s through even the early 90s, remember these costumes very fondly. They were inexpensive, but they were a really cool way to go out there and represent your favorite cartoons or movie characters. They did everything from Gremlins to Aliens to Star Wars to all kinds of different pop culture characters. But some of the most beloved Ben Cooper costumes that came out for many of us were those ones they did of classic monsters. They started just over a year ago coming out with these figures that replicated those costumes in miniature form, and these figures have been super duper popular. They sold out almost instantly. Wave 1 is now going for a lot of money on the aftermarket, unfortunately. Since then, Wave 2 came out with a bunch of new characters in there, and those sold out really quickly as well. After that, they came out with Wave 3 that featured more 80s characters like Gremlins and Alien. They even came out with a wave that featured somewhat more modern horror characters in there. Well, with this new line that I have here in this box, they've kind of gone back to the start. This was a really cool way for a lot of people who missed out on some or all of those characters from Wave 1 and even Wave 2 to get another crack at them. Yes, in this new wave, we have a bundle of 5 characters that are a blend of some of the really in-demand characters from Wave 1 and a couple from Wave 2, and they've redone them in a glow-in-the-dark style, which I think is kind of a cool way to do this, because obviously in one way it helps collectors get some of those characters that they missed out on, and that was really discouraging for a lot of people who were interested in this line, because they just became too expensive and hard to find on the aftermarket. Well, this is a way to get those characters, but for those that already have those characters, or maybe you invested a lot of money in those, this is a way to have them, but adding something a little different to differentiate between the two so that it's not necessarily taking away from the rarity or desirability of those Wave 1 and Wave 2 figures. So without any further ado, I'm really anxious to see what these look like in person, so yeah, let's get to some unboxing. All right, so I got my knife here, and let's just cut into it. Okay, box is open. Let's see what we have here. So first things first, this is what they put in the box to protect my figures. I'm not crazy about that. I will talk oftentimes when I do these unboxings about how I feel about the way they're packing these. Considering how collectible these are and that we do care about the packaging, especially with these because the packaging is also pretty collectible. It's made to also replicate the old Ben Cooper boxes from the 70s and 80s, and so I want them to look nice, and this is not really going to cut it. So NECA, you need to do a little better with that. And first things first, who do we have here? We have, all right, that's cool. We have the Vampire Girl. Now, this was a figure that came out as part of Series 2. These came out right around middle or end of the summer of 2024. If you watched that other video, you may recall that I did a review and an unboxing of the Skeleton Girl glow-in-the-dark exclusive from the New York Comic-Con in October of 2024. And what was stand out about that in the first place, aside from it being glow-in-the-dark, was that instead of having the blue box, it had the black box. And now that's another way you'll be able to discern the difference between the original Wave 1 and 2 figures and these glow-in-the-dark re-release ones, because the original ones came out in a blue box and these are in a black box. I love the look of the black box personally. But yeah, so there is your figure. And we're going to take a closer look at these figures later, but for right now, I just want to pull them out and get my initial first impressions. I think it looks great. Coming second out of the box, awesome. Yeah, we have from Wave 1, we have Frankenstein. Now, again, this is a really, really tough one to get. If you didn't get the original Wave 1 release from however many months ago they came out, about a year or so ago now, these originally came out. And yeah, so the figure looks pretty much the same, other than he's going to have the glow-in-the-dark paint features. And he comes in the dark box. And coming third out of the box, we have Dracula. So Dracula is really cool. That one was also a Series 2 character. This one, if I recall correctly, initially was a Walmart exclusive. This was one you could only get at Walmart, and now you can get them in this wave as a glow-in-the-dark figure. Next up out of the box, we have, yes, it is old Greenskin himself. It is the Creature from the Black Lagoon. This was one that I was really, really eager to get because I did not get the Wave 1 version of this. And yes, he was from Wave 1. So now, if you don't want to pay upwards of $200 or so on the aftermarket to get a Wave 1 version of it, and you just really want Creature, it's like, for me, yeah, it would be cool to have the Wave 1 version, but I'm a Creature of the Black Lagoon collector in general. So, like, you know, whether it's Wave 1 or it's a re-release, a glow-in-the-dark version, I kind of want them all. But right now, I'm not about to go pay $200 or more for a Wave 1 Creature from the Black Lagoon. So I'm just very happy to have this in my collection, and I love the fact that he's going to be glow in the dark. I think that's pretty neat. So there we go, Creature. And lastly, coming out of the box, we have Phantom of the Opera. That's another favorite of mine. I do collect a lot of Phantom of the Opera collectibles and figures and things like that, so this is very cool to have. I do actually have the original release of this one, so that'll be really cool to have these two next to one another on my shelf. So there you have it. These are the latest figures, all 5 from the new wave of NECA Ben Cooper costume collection figures. So another thing I do want to mention that is really cool about these boxes, that if you look on the bottom of the box, it actually lists a bunch of the names of the people who were involved in creating and sculpting and designing these figures. That's another thing I really like about companies like NECA when they do stuff like that, because I do feel that the people behind making these figures deserve to get the credit and recognition that they should have, because just like with comic book arts or anime or anything like that, I think that it's great to acknowledge those creators behind making these things look so damn cool. And what I am going to do here is I am going to actually open these packages. I want to see what these figures look like outside of their boxes because, yeah, they're just so nicely sculpted. I want to get some really good close-up look at the full costume. So let's take a look at them now. So each box just has a little round piece of like a sticker tape kind of thing keeping the top lid secured. So it is pretty easy to get this open without ruining the package if you care about keeping your package even if you open and display your figures. So that's good to know. All right, sliding the figure out here. So as you can see, another cool thing about opening and displaying these is that the inside of the box comes with a really cool, like almost like a little diorama thing of a costume shop. I think that's awesome. I mean, you don't have to display your figures on that. If you want to, you could put them on whatever kind of display you want on your own shelves or however you show them off. But I think that's super cool to have if you don't want to just have it trapped in the box, but you do want to have, you know, a little bit of a background thing to put there with each of them, keeping them in context of what they are. Okay, so I've removed the figure from the inside plastic. Now, one thing I do want to mention to all of you that do open these and display them, they are only attached with one little thin plastic kind of tab thing in here that you're going to have to cut it. You might be able to slide it through, but for me, there was no way to really be able to do that. I ended up just cutting it. So once you do cut that plastic tie, it's pretty much out of there. And the second thing I want to mention is that, like, I pulled out Creature here, and he's really snugly fit into this plastic tray. And as you can see, it is kind of a fragile figure. So be careful when you're pulling these figures out of their trays. Be careful that you don't end up breaking any limbs or pulling the head off, because that would be very bad, obviously. And so that there is the figure. Now, the back of the figure is not very exciting. It's just the plain red color. These figures can be a little bit challenging sometimes to pose. The legs are very thin. The feet are shaped in such a way that these are not going to be super hyper posable figures. So you may want to have some kind of doll or figure stands here for these figures, or I have a feeling they're going to be falling over a lot. All you have to do is slightly rattle it and it's going to fall over. So yeah, that is a little bit, see, there you go. That is a little bit of a negative there. But yeah, I would definitely recommend some kind of stand for these figures if you're going to display them like this. And then additionally, they do come with their little candy sacks. This one with the little trick-or-treat kind of sack, looking very vintage there. And you can put it in the character's hand. And yeah, it's pretty cool to display it like that. All right, coming up next, we have the Vampire Girl. Let's see what she looks like out of the package. Again, same kind of insert with the costume shop. All right, again, carefully removing her from her plastic sarcophagus there. This is what you get with her. And she also comes with her own little trick-or-treating bag. This one has a haunted house of sorts on there and says Happy Halloween. Coming up next, we have the Phantom. Phantom comes with the backdrop, and as you can see, Phantom also comes with a little jack-o'-lantern pail. That's super cool. So there you go. There is the Phantom. You can see you can put the jack-o'-lantern pail in his hand. And just another note, it can be a little tricky getting things like the pail and the trick-or-treat bags into their hands. Again, it's a very tight fit, and you just got to be careful because you don't want to break the fingers or any of the joints when trying to get that on there. So just be patient and try your best to get it on there. Next, we have old Dracula. Again, same kind of insert. And yeah, here you go. There's Dracula with his own little trick-or-treat bag with a happy pumpkin on there. Back of the figure is just the plain vinyl red there. And yeah, Drac looks real good. So far, so good. Last but not least, we have another favorite of mine, and it is Frankenstein. This was another really hard to get one from Series 1. And again, same kind of backdrop. They all have the same kind of backdrop. And there you go. There is the Frankenstein figure, although it should be noted that this Frankenstein figure is a female. It's great to see that they do this. I love that they do this. I love they did that with the creature in Wave 1 as well, that you don't have it just stuck to one particular gender. They do have girls wearing cool monsters like Creature and Frankenstein because, hey, girls like these characters too. And I actually knew girls that went dressed as these characters when I was a kid, and so I think that's awesome that they're representing that. She has a really cool trick-or-treat bag there, and a long ponytail, and the figure looks great. Yeah, I can't wait to see what these are going to look like in the dark as part of the glow-in-the-dark collection. Yeah, they glow in the dark really well, and I think the only thing missing to make these figures even more authentic would probably be putting on the unwanted winter coat over them that moms and dads always force the kids to wear, which ruined the whole costume effect, but, you know, you had to keep warm. And so there you have it. This is the new wave of the NECA Ben Cooper costume collection. I think they look great, but yeah, there they are. This is the aforementioned one that came from New York Comic-Con back in October that I featured in my last video. If you want to check that out, you can click on that. Right now, I do believe that unfortunately, I think these are sold out on the website right now, but that doesn't mean they won't come back. They do sometimes come back. They get more numbers of them. So if you get a chance, get these. I think they're awesome. And yeah, let me know in the comments. Are you collecting any of these? Are you interested in these re-releases done in a different way with a different box or with glow-in-the-dark features? Is that something that's really cool and appealing to you, or is it something that you're not interested in? Let me know in the comments down below. And thank you for watching and listening, and we appreciate it if you would hit that subscribe button, hit that bell to be notified when we have new content coming out. We're going to have plenty more toyetic content coming out this year, hopefully sooner than later. And let us know what you would like to see featured on here. I've talked about everything from monster toys to Star Wars to Mego, Marvel, DC, all those kind of things I'm happy to talk about and feature on here. And I will be back soon to talk more with you about toys. Until then, happy hunting, happy collecting, and I'll see you soon.